All right, here it's webinar time. How you doing, Allison?
I'm good.
Happy
How are you?
Monday.
Happy Monday.
Good, good. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I realized that I didn't have headphones on as soon as I
Oh,
got in, and so I ran to get them, and then came back, and I was making sure that didn't mess up all the audio equipment. We're talking about podcast stuff today, and we got the whole setup right here, so we're going to dive into all of that. But yeah, last week we were in Vancouver, had an amazing event. I'm sure we'll have some people on this webinar today as well. But yeah, we haven't done one since our Vancouver event, right?
no, we have not.
Awesome. Yeah. So we talked a lot about AI there. Today we're going to talk about how some of the tools that we've spoke about before, and a new tool that no one's probably ever heard of, how you can use that to help you make a podcast as well, and just simplify everything. So, but yeah, before we dive into all the podcast equipment and AI to really allow all of these salons to consider to do a podcast at their salon, I kind of wanted to talk about today's Monday. We did a lot of traveling last week, and something that I posted on my Instagram story today was I didn't feel like it. I felt like so tired. I didn't want to go to the gym. I didn't want to get up at 5 today. And that's always when I push myself, and like went to the gym, mailed in a workout. It wasn't like I didn't have the energy and stamina to actually have a strong workout, but I was there. I put in the work and started the new routine, or just went back to my routine after all this traveling.
I wish
How
I
did
could
you
say
feel
the
this week?
same. I woke up this morning at 4:30, I think it was 4:30, and I saw that Paris was awake too, and I was like, okay, he's probably going to go to the gym. And then I waited to see if he was going to get up and go. And I was like, in my head, like, I've had a really hard time getting back into the swing of things, like a really hard time. I
Yeah.
have been exhausted all week and totally giving myself plenty of grace, more than I've ever
Yeah.
given myself.
Yeah.
And so I got up or whatever, and then or 5 o'clock rolls around, or maybe like 5:15, and he got up and went. And I was secretly so glad that I could no longer go. I missed the mark, but I really want to go for a walk outside today. I am, you don't have this problem because you live in California, but I am like really craving being outside. I am
Right.
like, I want to go for a walk. Um, yeah, this weather is, I mean, it's like slightly lifted a little bit, elevated
Hmm.
to the 20s. Um, but I really want to be outside. I need to go for a nature walk. I need to like be outside.
Yeah. That's really why, depending on what your circumstances are, the different things you have to push through, setting yourself up for success. It's a challenge, not to
Yeah.
mention husband and kids in
Yeah, also
winter.
Aurora woke up around, I think it was like 5, and she wanted water or something, and then, she won't let me, I mean, I say she won't let me leave. She'll throw a fit if I try to leave while she's awake. Um, and so there was that too, just kind of like not wanting to visit that with her.
Yeah.
But, um, yeah, it was a good excuse not to go, but I am missing the gym. I just could not wrap my I was jet lagged, which I feel like is so silly. How do you get jet lagged over 3 hours? I mean, I know that's a thing, but it doesn't feel like I should be that exhausted. But I feel like I just came off of like a really long bender, like 3-month bender or something. And I just this week I have been coming down from, I actually thought I was getting sick because I was so tired.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
realized that sometimes you just get tired when you work really hard
For
and you
sure.
do.
I came back after the gym and took a nap. So I think the overall thing is like, figuring out a way to get back into it, whether you are able to wake up today and just force yourself to go, or you make time for it later and say, listen, I'm just going to do a workout at home and just put 30 minutes in and put a YouTube video on, how we can find our way back to our strongest formula. Because life's going to happen, travel is going to happen, work's going to happen, but finding our way back to our formula.
So something I do, and I've been doing all week, is I haven't taken off my 5 a.m. alarm. Like, I don't always set an alarm if I'm in the groove of waking up. I don't need to. I'll wake up anyway. I wake up at 4:30 anyway. But if I am tired and I need to wake up to go to the gym and I'm not sure if I'll wake up, I'll set an alarm. So this week I actually set a 5 a.m. Alarm to get me back in the habit, in the
Yeah.
routine. It's really not a habit because it's my body needed to wake up at that time. If I
Yeah.
was waking up at that time and I was in my normal routine, it wouldn't be a problem. But because I'm so thrown off, I've been setting an alarm for like the past 4 days. I've been doing it. So I wake up and see if I can do it. And if I can't, then I go back to sleep. But at least I'm getting my body back trained to wake up early.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just tricks of the trade. Life's gonna happen.
Yeah.
What are
And
you gonna do about
I
it?
prefer not to have an alarm because then I know my body was ready to wake up and I'm not pushing it too far. But you have to throw yourself back into that routine.
Yeah, you have to. You have to, so you can get more things done, more efficiently. And as we're talking about podcasts today, a lot of people see it. I see Ashley says, "So excited for this one. I've been debating podcasts for so long," and I truly believe that everyone should try to start a podcast to see, and especially in the beauty world, where if we go into this deck a little bit, the first thing we have here is a salon is a place. All right, Salon is more than just a place for hair and beauty. It is a space for conversation, creativity, and connection. A podcast allows you to extend those moments beyond the salon chair and into a growing audience that values your expertise, insights, and personal journey. Out of any business that I could think of, like in a town, a beauty salon feels like the perfect place for a podcast as far as like the different personalities, like the people that are stylists and how creative they are. And the fact that you talk and have conversations all day and talk to clients, there's so much to speak about. And they can really go in any different lane for that as long as it feels like the salon. But what I love most about taking this step forward is it gives you, even if you do a 20-minute podcast or a 30-minute podcast up to an hour, if you can get over the hump of figuring out how to do it, which is very simple, low key, you could even just do this. You could just do a podcast on StreamYard and afterwards download it and then splice verts from that. But getting into it, it allows you to get long form content and build your brand even further. But it also allows you to splice the vertical videos for all of your platforms and to showcase some of the other stylists at your salon or estheticians, etc. And even have interviews with local people in the city. So it's going to get you so much more visibility. And it's scary. Yes, jumping into a podcast might be scary for you, but once you get over that hump, the world just opens up for you.
Yeah, it reminds me of when we did our podcast during COVID. Robin and I launched the All Time Glow podcast, and it was
Yeah.
literally just Zoom. It was the most like low quality, um, thrown together Zoom podcast you could ever have. But it got me in the game. So they always say like done is better than perfect. Of course, I would have loved to have the mics and the camera and everything, which at the end of COVID, we did end up purchasing. And then like you
Yeah.
go back into the salon life and we were working like 7 days a week behind the chair. So we couldn't just jump into continue doing it at the salon like we were during COVID at home because we were bored and had nothing else to do. But we literally just like threw together a podcast and just had people on it. I interviewed a couple suite renters. Who else did we have on it? One of my friends that's an educator. We just did a few of them because then salons opened up and we went back to work. But yeah, it just kind of got me in the game and knowing how to have a conversation over video and how to interview people and things like that, which I feel like hairdressers, like they interview people all day long anyway, like not necessarily an interview, but you ask questions to people that are in your chair and you're like, kind of conversing with them and thinking of different things to talk to them about. And that's basically what a podcast is: thinking of things to say, thinking of things to ask people, thinking of things to talk about. And that's basically what we do anyway. And then salon owners do that with their teams. So it's like, we're already doing this. We already talk for a living. We may as well talk to other people to grow our audience and then put it on, vertical videos out of it.
Yeah, yeah, and otherwise you're missing out on all of this potential attention, and it just feels like it just gives a great vibe for the salon to uh to grow through that and also bring in your team and your community, like really work on your culture within it. If everybody's part of this, it could be a really special thing.
Yeah, and
And
it's also been great for us coming up with content on the coaching side. It's like without our podcasts and our courses and things like that that we record in the studio, it
yeah.
opens up the possibility to do so many things if you have a studio set up.
Hmm.
We've been able to create content that we never would have had before, and it's so much more high quality than we would have had if we're just constantly trying to like be out and about shooting content like out in the world. It's like, no, when you have the studio with the proper lighting and camera equipment or mic, it's so much easier to create content. It's funner too.
Yeah, absolutely. And your salon is pretty much set up for it anyways. If you could even just set up a table, a couple mics, a laptop. You could either use natural lighting or, we'll get into more of that. But um, really showcasing the atmosphere is super necessary, I think, for this as well. So,
Yeah.
so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get into like what kind of equipment you need. And here's three different versions of podcast microphones that could be um, good for you. This actually the one that I'm using here. This is the Shure, and these are the ones in the photo. This is in our studio. Is the Shure SM7B. So these go for $399, and you used to have to buy a separate thing called the cloud lifter that would like amplify the sound to be able to plug it into a Rodecaster Pro or something, which we'll get to in a second. But now, based on some of the advancements in some of these audio devices, you don't need that. But the Shure MV6 is $150. There's believe there's a USB and an XLR version, and then also just a USB version. The one that's 150 is just a USB version. The Rode Pod Mic is 99. Rode and Shure are two really strong companies in the podcast space. Rode, you're even like you'll see a lot of lav mics that clip onto you are made by Rode. They have boom mics, and now they're in the pod mic game as well. But that's $99. And once you get to a place of like $99 and you have the proper equipment, the sound is pretty crisp. These in here, like the room is treated for it as well. Actually, like right here, which you can't see is all open. So I might be losing some sound in there. But when we do a podcast in the studio, we close a curtain that keeps all of the noise in. So if you do have a large salon, like your Livonia salon would probably have more of a natural reverb or echo in there, and different than like the downtown Plymouth salon. So depending on where you do it, but that's secondary. Like we did podcasts for years in a space that it was a little bit of a natural reverb. It's okay. It's fine. And actually there's a lot of tools within these different editing platforms that you can actually minimize that way better now too with AI.
Well,
But
yeah, it's way better than doing it without anything.
yeah, exactly. So, like if you're using one of these mics, I wonder if these actually have just a USB too. I don't think they do, but if you're using one of the ones like the Shure MV6 that can plug directly into your computer, that's already getting you much better sound. And then, which I think we should actually get you something like that now that we're doing more of these webinars.
Yeah.
But here's the thing is like, we still do these and the sound doesn't matter. Like before I even hooked up the mic to be able to do this, or you not having a mic, it still sounds like really good. It doesn't need to be super high crisp always. So yeah, these are three microphones. If you guys want to screenshot this, look these up. You can just buy them right on Amazon. Amazon is a good place to buy them. Sweetwater is where we got a lot of our equipment early on. And but Amazon is just easy to go click and buy. And they'll even have some packages that have like the XLR cables, which we'll go into in a minute. They'll have the stand for you, which you could get like the like radio style boom stand that comes down and you can, talk on it like this, or like these stands in the picture there.
Is that the one I have at the salon where it comes down?
Yeah, yep. Yeah. We got those from Sweetwater.
Yeah.
And I think all we need to do based on what you have is just get you a Rodecaster. There's, well, actually, let's see if we go into that now from here. The Rodecaster audio. So this looks really cool. And it's might look a little technical, but it's not. It's so easy. What's that? Does
A
it?
little intimidating.
Yeah. So it's not at all. Once you learn how, once you just plug it in, and you have the XLR cables. The XLR cables actually go into the back of it. XLR cables are what you use that plug into the microphone, and then they plug into the Rodecaster Pro. So this is the Rodecaster Pro 2. This goes for $469. The reason I put this there and not the Rodecaster Pro 1, which is still, I think, available, and we actually have one in the closet here. That was the first one we got. Well, the reason is because you used to have to use a cloud lifter. It was this little blue box. That's another $150. And then that amplifies the sound before it goes into the Rodecaster. But the Rodecaster Pro 2, one of the advancements they made in it, they made it so you don't need that anymore. So, and then as, Rodecaster continues to take off, This has the ability to have 4 microphones here that you can see like on the board. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's also a way to Bluetooth like a phone call in if you want to. And then there's also like you can see those pads on the far right. Those are sounds that you can add into it. And so oftentimes what we do for a podcast is we have their intro there and you hit that and then you pull it down as you bring them into the show. But the Rodecaster Duo is just that. It's just 2. So you don't it's less money and allows you just to have 2 mics. So if you have a podcast at your salon, it's only $4.99 and you plug that right into you let's see. You would just record the sound separately on there and then just get really clean, crisp audio. So the process would be you shooting it on the camera or on your iPhone, and then you're shooting it on the audio on the Rodecaster. And when you go to edit it, you just go and you sync them in post because the camera will have some kind of audio in it, and then the Rodecaster will have, of course, just audio. So it'll attach to it in one click. It's very simple. But
So do you need, when you have this, do you need someone else there producing it for you? Like if, say, for instance, Ashley works in a suite setting, which she does have employees. So would she need someone else there with her if she was shooting a solo podcast to do that? Or can she kind of like do it all at the same time?
you can do it all at the same time. So you would have your laptop set up as well, or not. You might not even need your laptop. Actually, you could just have the Rodecaster and just have your iPhone, and you're already good to go. So basically, you would test the audio. So you'd put headphones on into the Rodecaster to make sure the audio is clear. And the way that you save it is you save it on a micro SD card, which actually looks like this. This is what a micro SD card looks like. Let me actually change views so you can see me. So this is a micro SD card, literally micro. And then for your camera, if you're using a camera, you would use an SD card. And that looks like this. So we have like we hold them all in here. So you have your SD card, which you would use for your camera. That goes into the bottom. And then the micro SD has this little, it like slides into here. So like you can see this is the micro SD, and then this is like the dummy sleeve so that your computer can read it. Boom, you just put that in there, and now you're able to add it there. And so once you record the audio on the micro SD, afterwards you just take it out, you put it in this, you upload that to your computer, and then you also take the video from your iPhone or whatever, you bring that into your computer, and then you sync them. And low key, if you just have one camera, all you have to do is export. You could go in, you could add like your graphic at the beginning and at the end, which people are somewhat afraid of using an editing platform. DaVinci Resolve is free. Premiere, you do have to pay a monthly or buy it outright, but once you learn 4 moves, how to import, which is super easy, there's so many tutorials on the internet. Literally, if you just use it for one day, you would become a master of it. I see it all the time. When we have interns coming in, they never have editing capabilities. They come in by the end of the first day, they understand the 4 moves. How do I import the content? How do I cut? How do I detach audio? How do I sync? And how do I export? And if you have one camera, then you just go in there, you cut, you can take out anything you don't want to be in there. Or if you like flubbed a line, or if you, you said something you don't want to put out on the internet, you're literally done. So
It's always me. I'm like, can we take that part out when we actually put this?
yeah.
I should have said that.
Low-key, nobody actually cares.
Low-key, those are the best ones. That's what's going to make your video go viral.
Absolutely. Ashley said, maybe you will cover this, but do you like the live podcast or film and edit? So most of the time, based on using StreamYard, one of the capabilities we have, because this is actually, I can kind of show you real quick. Let me see. So if I were to turn these on. So the cool thing about StreamYard, and if you were to get something at an advanced level, let's see if I'm able to do this. So we have it's set up here, so you could actually go, oh, that's nobody. That's the table, right? So this is like a multi-cam view if you wanted to go and do it that way. So oftentimes what we do in here is we have the whole setup, and we do it live on StreamYard for a client so that they can actually use StreamYard. It will go live on Facebook, on YouTube, on you can Instagram, and on StreamYard. So it's a way to get a lot of attention. So I low key, if you have a comfortable group that I would say probably start with an edit, with a shoot and edit, but then eventually get to the live version, because then if you even just do a live on StreamYard or something like that, then you're already have the edit. The audio is already in there. You would just literally have the Rodecaster Pro connected to the computer, so that way when you use that audio on here, just exactly like I'm doing it. So I like that. I like a live podcast, but overall, if you're adding some specific things, like for the Rodriguez project, we're adding a lot of new components to it, drawing like the whole thought behind the Rodriguez project is live a life worth writing a movie about. So we actually take you on the road of like of an actual feature film through their life. So we're adding some things in there specifically, but I love the idea of doing a live podcast if it's for you, and eventually potentially getting there.
Yeah, I like that too, and I like watching that kind of content as well.
Yeah. And people can tap in, like Ashley's asking questions here. Also, if anybody else has any questions, put them in the chat, and we can cover those. But I'm telling you, this stuff is so simple. And if you guys get this equipment and you need somebody to even help you like put it together, like reach out to us. We can help you out with that. Or there's so many tutorials that simplify everything. It's not as hard as it looks. And then now, as we're getting into the camera, your smartphone is fine. Oh, that's supposed to say iPhone. The I is silent, I guess. But yeah, just using
iPhone is
your
just a phone, and then everything else gets called something else.
yeah. So yeah, using your smartphone is enough. We did that for a long time. This is the Sony A6400. The reason that we use the Sony A6400 in the studio, we have 4 of these, is because they don't turn off after 20 minutes. A lot of the Canons and other just any DSLR camera, they'll shut off early. This one is kind of an old camera, but it doesn't shut off, so we can do 3-hour long podcasts and be good. We do plug it in to ensure that the power doesn't die. But these are $12.99. You can get it at Best Buy. You can get it on Amazon as well. And typically, not to get too technical here, typically, or at least the ones that we bought, they came with the 18 to 135 lens. It's a zoom lens, so if you just want to go wide or you want to zoom in on somebody, it's a clean lens. The other one that I would recommend getting would be a 50 millimeter. And typically with the 50 millimeter, there's a few different styles of it. And each of them, the 50 millimeter is a real crisp lens, so it looks really good. Actually, the lens I'm using now is 16 to 50, but this is kind of like what a 50 would look like. And if it's a step up, it'll give you more of a blurred background. If it's there's like 1.2, 1.4, and then a 1.8 or something like that. But
A lot
go
of
ahead.
stylists in the beauty world right now are toying with the idea of getting and this has kind of been the talk for a while. Should I get a camera aside from like my iPhone to take in salon photos? And now you see a lot more stylists doing creative shoots in their salons rather than hiring a photographer. And they're, just getting like a white backdrop or a black backdrop or using a white wall and doing photos in the salon. So would something like that camera double as something that they could also do photos with, or is that more just good for video?
No, it's I think it's initially even built for photo first. And so yeah, you can definitely use that. It's going to take some work, right? So the thing that I like about using these cameras in the studio is that we never change like the white balance, the exposure, the ISO. Those are certain things. There's like a pyramid, like a triangle that you have to like balance different things to make it look the best. So if you're in your salon and you're always shooting at the same time of day and et cetera, then you'll keep the settings the same. And then if you're shooting somebody, you might have to change some things on there where like the iPhone would just do it for you, or you would just tap it and bring the exposure down, and that's all you have to do. So I still like the iPhone for most of the content you're shooting in the salon. If you got somebody, or if you want to get better at and you're willing to work at how to use a camera regularly and get these great shots, then I think definitely it can definitely double for that.
I think
for
that's a
sure.
really big mismark in the photography world for them to be teaching classes for hairstylists, because if
Mm,
anyone wants to learn how to do better photography, it's every hairdresser in the entire world.
yeah,
So if there's any photographers that land on this video, please teach a class
yeah,
to your local salons. But yeah, it's like when I got the camera to shoot our podcast here in Michigan, um, it was like the ISO or whatever. Like I knew nothing about photography,
yeah,
but after researching it a little bit, it was like telling me what to put the settings at. And I got a couple really good photos on there that I'm like, wow, this is why people get cameras, right?
yeah.
But then you go outside or you go inside or you go to a building and you have to change everything again. So I would actually love to take a photography class, like, or just like learn more about. I mean, I know I can find the stuff on the internet, but
Yeah,
I want someone to sit down with me and give me like a one-on-one tutorial about photography, because so many people in the beauty industry want to get better content of themselves and funner content and just different quality than they feel that they get on their iPhone. And I feel like that's such a mismark. But if they have something like this already for their podcast, they can just use that as well and learn how to use it better. Maybe get a different
100%.
or something.
Yeah, the lens is really what it comes down to. If you get, I'm telling you, get a 50 millimeter, it's like 125 bucks, and
Mhm.
you start shooting on that, it makes everything look good.
Yeah,
And
we had a couple of lenses and I'm still learning them. I mean, it's been a while since I've started learning, but I'm still learning because we don't
yeah,
have a whole lot of time to pour into that. And I definitely like my goal is to spend more time into learning how to use the camera.
yeah, absolutely. So
Even
I
just for
think this
ChatGPT, you know?
yeah, and Sony makes a lot of other ones. There's a lot of like vlog cameras that people are that they've made particularly for this current digital era that we're in. So highly recommend using, just doing some research. See people on the internet as they're like weighing the pros and cons of all of them to see what is the right fit for you. And I'm telling you, because like you were saying, as you're shooting in the salon, it's you finally got some photos. You went outside. It's super like
It's different. You have to change everything all over again.
yeah, yeah, but that's why you do like a couple shots, or what you do is you switch it over to video and you change the ISO there and you change the exposure, everything. So that way you actually dial it in through video and then you can go back and then you take a couple of test shots. You look at it, you might adjust it, but that's a little way to change those settings. Do it in video to do that.
Oh,
Look,
interesting.
yeah, low key, I should have started using these sounds in here. Let's see if you can hear this. Oh no, wait, that's voice disguise. Whoops. No, wait, I wonder what. Oh, that's why. Can you hear that?
We definitely need some sound effects.
I wonder why I can't hear it in these headphones. I guess I would have to have headphones in this, and not that. But
Can you hear it in your ear or is it only playing?
I hear it. Where do I hear it? Oh, I hear it in the other headphones behind me. I should start
Where are you
using.
hearing it from?
I can start using sound effects as soon as we come on. It's like
Yeah.
gonna liven this up.
I feel like
But
Mojo in the morning. Shout out Mojo in the morning.
yeah, yeah, we should have him on the
We should.
webinar. But yeah, highly recommend the Sony A6400 6400. The sounds that I was making, this is on the Rodecaster Pro that I was showing you guys before. On that far right side of things, it has all of these different sound effects.
Do the voice disguiser. This is what they do on Mojo in the morning when people call and they want to be disguised.
Yo, what up, everybody? Welcome to
No,
the. Oh wait, hold on. Oh, it has to be on number one.
that was definitely your voice.
Hey, what's that? I'm like, hey guys. Actually, the voice disguiser only does it for the number one. So I think I have
Oh,
to change the settings. So
okay.
sorry. But
Nice.
let's get into the headphones. So these Sony headphones are, I think, 125. They might even go for even less now, maybe 99. But these headphones are solid. You don't want to get something that's you don't need to get something that's super crazy, but also you don't want to get anything that's too cheap. We have these Sony headphones, and like even if you use them and wear them a lot, like our guests do, we actually recently just went in and changed these like the headphone part of it. I just got new ones of these. It was like 15 bucks. So as they wear out, then you can just get new ones to ensure that they look good.
Well, that's
And
nice. And you don't have to like buy the whole thing all over again and they look great.
exactly. Yep. And so you definitely want at least one pair of headphones so you can listen into it. So if you're doing an audio podcast by yourself and you don't have a producer, you want to maybe wear them and check in on them regularly, because you don't, the worst thing is you record everything and then it's not the sound isn't great.
Yeah, that sounds
Um, but some people in our podcast studios, as long as the producers here listening into the sound, some of the guests don't like to wear it. But but yeah, it's literally up to you if you want to be in headphone land or not. And
I love headphones. I feel like it just like lifts my hair, makes it like perfect amount of volume. Wish I could just wear it around the world.
oh really? That's so interesting. I
Yes,
love when
I always love it. I'm always like pushing my hair around it and it just like holds everything in place.
I've never realized that. I thought it always hurts the hair. It's so interesting as we're seeing like a lot of politicians on podcasts now, and they won't wear the headphones because it makes them look like, because they're wearing like a suit and they're all like
So
supposed to be
dorky.
professional, and then they're wearing headphones. It's like, it just kind of
Something else
goes
in
with
the hair
something.
world that you would not know is that when we get like a full head of foil and every little foil is just like lifting our hair perfectly, we're like, if we could just remove the metal, the aluminum foil in our hair would look really good. It always gives you like the perfect amount of lift. So I think headphones
Wow,
give me the same vibe.
I love it. Good to know. If you
Yeah.
guys have learned anything, it's that. That's on this.
Wear the headphones
Uh,
for the look, not the
100%.
sound.
And then the XLR cables. Look, I should have just brought all this stuff out here. Let me just bring my We have XLR cables for days. So these are the XLR cables. Um, they have the male end and then the female end, they call it. But the male end goes into the actual actually you can see
Can
it
I
right
see the
here.
male end again? Like, do they look different?
Yeah, it's just think about why they would call it male and female.
That's why I wanted to see. Oh my God, wait, I'm
Into the female end.
hilarious.
So that side
Do
goes
they
into the.
professionally call it that, or is that like a YouTube thing people do?
I think it's professionally. Yeah, they don't
Oh,
have
it's
like.
very professional. It's
um,
very professional.
I know, right? And then the other side goes into the roadcaster, into the back of the roadcaster, and then like on the roadcaster you have like different dials and everything too. So there may be some miscellaneous cables that you need, based on. Ashley said I'm 5 years old. Um,
If Ashley was here, we wouldn't have been able to stop laughing. Mark would have had to do the rest of the podcast by himself. We are literally 5 years old.
that's hilarious.
When I'm alone, I can reel it back in really
Yeah, get composed.
quick.
But yeah, so based on like the different cables that you need, you may need some like USB-C to depending on what computer you have, what kind of audio interface you use, the mics that you use. But
Where is the video that you did, the tour of your studio? Was it?
yeah, it's on Instagram and TikTok. I'll share it in our Beauty Mind membership, and maybe I'll put it in the description on YouTube here.
Yeah. You
I
walk
think
us
that's
through like everything.
yeah,
We'll
and why, and yeah, because you can get like the lighting kit. I don't have the lighting kit in here, but literally there's like some decent box lights. Who makes them? Newer, Neewer. Newer makes great starter kits, like 100 $150. We used to, for our clients that would like send us clients, we would send them a lighting package so they would just have it there, and it would also make their content better. And then eventually you can upgrade like the camera equipment that we have here now. Let me see the like, or not the camera equipment, the lighting, like this lighting that we have here, like these started going, the lighting package that you need that just has two lights, it's like 100 $150. These ones are like 400 and 400. We have two of those, and then these are like 300. But that's once we were having enough business in to then elevate the quality of it. But you don't need that, you just need to get started. And so yeah, based on everything in here, let's see if we have anything else. I think that's it for. Oh yeah, the last thing I wanted to talk about, like once you have everything, and you know the internet's going to give you any other answers. You can ask the Beauty Mind membership in our member chat for specifications based on what kind of equipment that you have. But once you have a podcast, and say you have more than one camera, and I'm sure you can use Autopod, which is this top one here, if you need to like take any like dry moments out or anything like that. But the great thing about Autopod, so say you use more than one camera, say you eventually get to three or two or something, you have one solo angle and then a wide angle. you can actually hook it up to Autopod and put all of your different um, assets in there, the video and the audio, and it will edit the whole thing for you in like 5 minutes. It's pretty remarkable. So like if you're like, oh, okay, we got 3 cameras, but how am I ever going to find time to edit the whole thing? You literally just add Autopod in and it'll edit it all for you. So it knows who's speaking when. It's going to cut to them,
That's amazing.
and then you can go in there and you can adjust it. So that's one AI tool that like before we got the live cut, the which is called an A10 Mini Extreme ISO. We won't even go into that. We don't need to get into that today. We'll do an extended version. But before we were live cutting, we would have to edit the whole thing afterwards, and our expenses were getting super high because it was taking our team like 4 or 5 hours to edit and export and upload. So Autopod, we started using that, and it took their time from like 5 hours down to like 45 minutes within the edit. Because you just do the whole edit, you go and you tweak, you add a few things, and you export. So Autopod saved the day initially. So that was one of the first AI tools for podcasts. And then Opus Clip, which we've been talking a lot about. Once you have long form content, 30-minute podcast, 20-minute podcast, 15-minute podcast, 60-minute podcast, whatever, you just upload that to opus.pro. That's the website, opus.pro. And your first 1 hour is free. It will take that long form, either the link from YouTube or you could upload to it, and it will splice vertical videos for you, and it will rank them based on how the viral potential that they have. So Opus Clip is going to just get you so much more content, so you can really post as much as you need to continuously grow. You don't want to just put all of the clips out there, but that's the way that you grow. You put the short form clips and then drive the traffic to the podcast on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
We've been talking so much about Opus and our events this month. I wonder if anyone's used it or if anyone plans on using it. Would love to hear some feedback. If
Absolutely.
anybody that then our Vancouver or Utah event starts using it, love to hear about it.
Yeah. And so back in the day, podcasts were just audio. Are we getting away from strict audio podcasting? Like, I'm going to have to be in front of a camera. 100% you have to be in front of a camera if you want anybody to watch it. Because based on where, the radio started, right? And then got to be visual. Then we kind of went back to the radio for a minute with the initial podcast that didn't have video. But the only way to get people to watch it is by having vertical videos, because that's where the highest organic growth is on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. So that's one of the huge reasons. Number one, we're using podcasts to be able to create the short form content that you then can collaborate on with that person. If you wanted to not be on camera, or maybe that's something you'll work towards. If you do an audio only podcast, you need to create some kind of visual representation for the vertical videos. So we have a client that did 15 podcasts on his own, didn't have audio or didn't have video for it. So what we did is we used an app to create like the audio wave, and we put a photo of them or their guest on that. So that way they had a vertical video that could send it to YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And then on YouTube, because we didn't have a visual for that, we just kept the thumbnail up for the entire podcast. So there is ways to work towards it, but you will actually have a chance to grow it if you have a visual or if you are using video for it. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. It's already difficult, but this is going to make it more difficult.
Yeah,
And
which by the way, I asked Mark the same thing like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, can't I just, while I'm in Michigan and I don't have that beautiful studio to shoot in, can I just like pop out some audio clips? And he's like, no.
Yeah, I mean, because you just have to give some kind of visual for the short form video.
Oh, I
So
totally get it because I wouldn't watch somebody else's. I'm not going to listen to somebody else's random podcast unless I have something to drive me there.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. So
because
there's ways of creating it, but
because I listen to really grown podcasts, like that have been out for a while and they have a really big following, because I listen to those on audio, I thought like, oh, I could do this and people could listen to me while they're at the gym. But like you said, you need something that's going to drive it there.
yeah, for sure. And so you can edit that, like you can edit it in Canva, you can edit the video, you can just do the visual there, put the audio in and cut some verts that way. But I would definitely work towards it if it's something you want to build. If you're doing it in a town and your biggest goal is just to get the town to see it. So just having guests from the local other like the best restaurant in Iowa or whatever. Where does Ashley live? Iowa or Idaho?
I will.
So like, yeah, depending on wherever you live, you want to get the attention from the community. So it's not really about growing the biggest podcast ever initially. Eventually, you do want to work towards growing something substantial. And then the last thing that I didn't include in there because it's not necessarily equipment, we prefer to use Anchor, which it started as Anchor to distribute the podcast to the different audio platforms. Anchor was sold to Spotify, so it went by Spotify for podcasters. Now it's actually called Spotify for creators. So that's the platform, the free platform you're going to use to upload the video version of your podcast once you finish editing it. And the great thing about using Spotify for creators is because it's going to take it and put it on Spotify and Apple. YouTube you'll do separately. But the great thing about using Spotify for creators is it's going to put the video version on Spotify in case the people want to watch it there. And if they don't want to watch it, they can just listen to it. And then it also just does audio only to Apple Podcasts. And you could actually put it on a few other ones, Stitcher and whatever other podcast platforms too. But currently, Spotify and Apple, they own most of the market there. And even Google Podcasts just got out of the game because they're like, fuck it, we're not even really competing
They
at like
did?
9%. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
so most of the attention is on these other on Spotify and Apple. So those are the primary platforms you want to put them on. But through Spotify for podcasters, there's also Podbean and something else that have some other pros and cons to them. But Spotify for podcasters is the only one that allows you to put the video on Spotify too. And I think that's a necessary component to it all. But
Yeah, and those things are fairly easy to figure out. I was able to figure those out. So I set up our Beauty Mind podcast all by myself from here in Michigan, and I was able to figure it out. I had already done it on Anchor back when we had All Time Glow, so I sort of remembered how it went. But I was able to use the Spotify version and figure it out without tons of help from Mark. So I feel like it's fairly easy to figure out how to get it to stream everywhere.
yeah,
Get it
absolutely.
uploaded
Yeah.
and get, synced with all the different accounts, because you do have to set up an account with your Apple ID and everything to get it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and things like that. So it's fairly easy
Yeah.
to figure out, but it takes some time and patience.
Yep. And just like everything, but you can learn it. You just have to put the time and effort into it. And when I say time and effort, it's literally like a day.
Yeah.
And if it takes 3 days or a week, that's okay too. But you have to put the time and effort. Eventually, it'll be second nature to you. So, yeah, that's it for podcast. This is like an intro into podcast, your equipment and the AI that you can use. If you guys do have any questions, you can put those in the comments or in our chat in the Beauty Mind membership, and we'll continue to answer those. And then also bring up, as we're talking about AI monthly, Autopod will be our platform that we're talking about this month, and then the other platforms that we're continuously speaking about. But yeah, we'll look at maybe some advanced podcasting techniques and stuff too. Maybe editing. I think editing would be a strong one too,
Mhm.
just to give you guys the visuals of how this all goes and how simple it is once you get over the hump. But yeah,
Yeah, we'll
anything
get
else
that
from your side, Al?
tour. I think we should definitely get your tour of the studio posted in Beauty Mind so that people can check that out and see how you have it all set up and just take some inspiration from that. Obviously, it's on a larger scale, but just figuring out how it all can look with the table and the mic and the camera and things like that.
Yeah. And by the way, I made so many mistakes when I built this studio. I bought the wrong stuff. The things I thought were right, then I learned that they weren't right. And because ours is, like I said, we did a step up. So learning to do that was a whole headache for months. And now I know most of it. So you're gonna have to put yourself through the gauntlet, and eventually people are gonna be like, "How did you even know to get all this?" I'm like, "Well, I asked people, and then I made the mistakes, and then I figured it out, and now you don't have to make the mistakes. We'll answer those questions for you." So
Yeah. Yeah, this is
okay.
awesome. I think a lot of people want to start a podcast and hopefully now have the ability or the confidence to do so.
Absolutely. All right, cool. We'll see you guys in the Beauty Mind. Got some outro music, and can you hear that?
Yes, I do.
This is
Yeah,
off the
I
script,
do.
one of our podcasts. All right, y'all. Have a good one. We'll see you next
All
time. Let us
right.
know if you have any questions.
See ya.